What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. So it's almost Halloween, and that means it's time for some spooky content. Halloween is actually my favorite holiday of the year, so I get excited about making videos around this time. Anyways, along with the theme of spooky stuff though, comes all things abandoned, and in the past we've seen a lot of abandoned roller coasters. Names like Mega Zeph, Screw Coaster, Knightmare, etc. are all examples of names of coasters you might or should recognize as being or having been abandoned. But do you ever stop to think where these coasters came from or what caused them to be abandoned? I mean, I certainly do, and I wanted to make a video on a very special abandoned coaster today, one that is one of the most photographed and eeriest looking in the world, at least in my opinion. So what is it, and where did it come from? This is the sad, yet very cool history of Six Flags New Orleans, Jester. Jester is and was a roller coaster designed by manufacturer Vekoma that was part of a 2 Series model dubbed the Hurricane. First appearing at Six Flags Fiesta Texas in 1996 as Joker's Revenge, it was the first roller coaster at the park with an inversion, a DC Comics character theme, and one with the ability to run backwards. Employees at the park had green hair and yellow jackets during its first week of operation, and the funhouse queue line with its flashing lights and upside down furniture was perhaps one of the ride's most distinguishing features. It had light yellow trains made by Aerodynamics, magenta track, and magenta supports. That said, Joker's Revenge was one of the top rides at Six Flags Fiesta Texas when it first opened, but by the early 2000s, guests had started to complain about how unpleasant the ride had grown to be. Also, there were mechanical problems with the ride, and it all around just seemed to be going downhill. The coaster was then consequently shut down in 2001 and did not run at all in 2002. Later, it was then quickly disassembled and put into storage for a brief period of time. During that year's Fright Fest, however, the funhouse line was repurposed for the park's brutal Planet Haunted House, and in place where the Joker's Revenge had stood, Pandemonium debuted in 2007. So what happened to Joker's Revenge? Well, as it turns out, that same year it was shipped off to Six Flags New Orleans, where it would quickly be erected and opened as the Jester under a new paint scheme. This time with green track and blue supports, it would continue to run backwards in the Mardi Gras section of the park, and it seemed to be a good addition at the time. However, this was 2003, and if any of you know the story of Six Flags New Orleans, well, you'll know what comes next. 2 years later, in 2005, Hurricane Katrina hit the area and severely damaged the park as well as the attractions within. Jester, among these, was subject to severe flooding and minor track damage, leaving it unable to operate and in a state of disrepair. Six Flags then started the process of relocating some of the rides to their other parks in 2007, with Batman the Ride, Bayo Blaster, Sonic Slam, and Roadrunner Express all receiving new homes. However, the Jester, along with Mega Zeph and the rest of the other rides and attractions, did not receive the same fate. To this day, the Jester remains eerily abandoned, sitting amongst graffiti, urban explorers, and a park that was once filled with fun. Its paint has slowly begun to fade, revealing its original colors, while its train still sits in the station, patiently waiting for future riders to board its cars. With that said though, we do know that this is never going to happen, and that is unfortunately the sad and complete history for what once was the Joker's Revenge. Again, today it still sits abandoned and retains its life in photos on the internet, though I have heard it's rather hard to get into Six Flags New Orleans nowadays. I guess Six Flags gave up ownership to the city, and I've heard from some friends of mine who have actually tried to get into that park that it's now heavily patrolled. So that's that. But of course, as always, it's been a major pleasure creating new content for all of you, and I'd like to invite you to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. I mean, I love abandoned stuff, and I hope some of you do too. Of course, stay tuned for yet another video coming in a couple days as well. That should be extremely exciting, and feel free to catch up with us on Instagram for those daily posts. Until then, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and we'll see you all there. See ya!